Okay, so I figured I'd have a last minute. I was thinking last night that, um, well, first we haven't. A number of people contacted me and said, "Hey, how come you haven't done any Friday lives?" And the main reason that we haven't is because my CRM is so crummy, and it's such a pain. It's so painful of an experience to send out mass emails. So I need to find a new CRM. So I've been spending this week kind of sourcing what it. If anybody has something that's really good, I'd love to hear about it.
I'll make it.
So I've been using Agile CRM, which is, it's actually fairly flexible. It's got a little widget so you can get in-app analytics. So it ties in visitors to our marketing site as well as to the BF editor and things like that. So it's kind of good that way. And a lot of them have widgets, but the email abilities are not so great. So anyhow, that's the reason for that. So I apologize for that, but oh well. So what I wanted to do is I've been wanting to, a lot of people, with FileMaker 19, there's going to be a whole whack of marketing promo blogs and everything, introducing stuff. But I think I'd rather build something that's actually useful, that people can use every day. So yes, we can build all kinds of widgets now in FileMaker, and we have better communication between the web viewer and FileMaker client. But I think what would be more useful is an area where you can basically code stuff out and eventually integrate or couple right into a FileMaker app. And what I mean by that is I'm going to share my screen here. And I'm not sure if everybody can hear me okay. I'm going to assume so because I don't see anything flashing in the chat or anything like that. Drag this out a little bit. So what I mean by that is we have in BetterForms editor, let me just go to a random page here. We already have the ability, we already have a full JSON editor or JavaScript editor. And if I was to do something like here, I'll just put in HTML. And we already have a live reactive HTML engine, which is really, really good. And I think it'd be great to introduce non-BetterForm users to Vue.js, because Vue.js is a really awesome framework. It's super easy to use for the stuff that we really need it to do. We don't have to use any of the advanced stuff from a FileMaker perspective. So if you don't already know, if you click on anything with an HTML tag or a label tag, it'll open up the editor, and then you can type live in the editor. So we already have these kind of abilities, and this is purely built out of BetterForms. So what I wanted to do is make a JavaScript one, because we can do the same thing if it was, we'll kind of hack something here, but if I had a button, say, if I had a button, let me just throw a button in here, and we'll throw a function for the button so that we can actually do something when we click the button. There we go. Excuse me. So anything with a function key, that can turn into an editor as well. So, but it's, in this case, it's a JavaScript editor. So the nice thing here is we have JavaScript syntax formatting. So I see some developers, and they're not using sort of moderner tools, so they have no idea if there's a syntax error or anything like that. And this spot's probably about 80–90% of your common errors, just because of not necessarily, this won't get things like undefined variables, but it will get missing brackets and that kind of stuff, and has code folding as well. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to hack something out, get your opinion, and then we'll start building it. And I don't know how far I can get today, but and I'll show you sort of what I'm thinking here. I want to try a new app. I just created an account today, but I haven't built anything in it. It's called Whimsical, and they call it a visual workspace. But our designer, Anna used it, and I thought it was really, really cool. So I've just created an account, and it's pretty easy to do things. Like I want to create a wireframe. Let me figure out how to do it. Window, flowchart, wireframe. Let me go back. Maybe I don't know how to use it. Why do I say new? Flowchart, wireframe. There we go. Okay. There, add element rectangle. There we are. So add frame. So you can just basically go like this. So we'll start with a kind of a browser. And what I'm thinking is, rather than focus even on the UI aspects of JavaScript, the real power, and I think you're going to start to see this come out maybe another 6 months where people really start to understand how powerful this ability is. The real power is in the ability to do JavaScript manipulations to collections, like to arrays or to objects. And by doing that, you can take your regular FileMaker paradigm of coding things, and you're going to be able to totally change that. About a month ago, we talked about API first design and working with a little bit about working with arrays and things. I also have a few videos on that as well. But when you realize some of the functions in external libraries about the ability to search through arrays and things like that, I'm still seeing all the time people manually building JavaScript. And I'm going to be honest with you, I haven't done that in probably about 2 years, like some kind of loop that builds up a thing, because there's just absolutely no reason to, or at least I've never found a use case for it. But I do things in JavaScript, and if I can't do it in FileMaker, I pass it on to the front end, and I let the front end do that, like sorting and things like that. So there's some really, really good libraries, and I think it'd be really nice to have examples. Whatever this workbench type idea would be, it would have some kind of examples. There would be maybe reference library, maybe down the road, crowdsourced links and things like that. Sort of like Brian Dunning is for custom functions. I would like to have something similar to that for JavaScript. So the way I sort of see it working, it's going to be some kind of like JS workbench kind of thing, and and basically some type of master detail, at least for now, where maybe on the left-hand side we could have a whole bunch of examples. I don't know how you set the colors on this thing. Is there a menu over here? No. So that's okay. Maybe it's in here. That looks like too much to learn already. And let's add another one here. You can put a button here, and this would be something like, I guess the book. Oh, that's good. New snippet. New snip. Sort of like our snippets that we have in BetterForms already. Maybe something along those lines. And then I'm not sure if I can copy paste. Yeah, actually. And maybe this would be a master view of all of the snippets that you could have, and then some type of a workspace over here, which would be like the JavaScript editor, and then maybe some action buttons, which should be to run and test your code, because you can actually test. You can't directly run it on the surface, but you can go into the console. And I think learning for any developer who's doing any kind of JavaScript, they have to learn their way around the console. So I think this would be kind of a tool that I could use for that. And then we could also use it for like workshops and those kinds of things. So maybe something along those lines there. And then we'd have the main editor maybe over here. What I like about this tool so far, I watched Anna use it yesterday in a meeting, and she's flying around this, like just flying, but she's a UX person, so that's what she does, right? So, I imagine all the keystrokes are very similar, but this would be some type of a JavaScript editor. So anybody knows how to color it, that would be really good. Just chime in. I hear 0 people, so that's okay. Oh well. Hopefully my audio is working. Jason, is my audio working?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. It's like crickets, man. So no idea. I don't know. You guys, anybody know how to change colors? I just want to like make a background color. Maybe no, this, maybe that's that. No, that's not it. Undo. Command Z. This one. Oh, there we go. Beautiful. Okay. There. And then it's a round dot. Who knew? Okay. Well, that's brutal. There we go. Okay. So we have, maybe this would be some type of the editor type thing over here. And I think this would be a good start, code editor. And what I'm thinking is we'll make this as a public tool, and I don't really want to have to build a back end, although it's really, really easy to build a back end for it, especially if there's no authentication and then just the user has some, the first time it creates an account and it pops a cookie on their computer or something like that. Um, And then maybe later on we could, as we had to start to share stuff, we could possibly build it out into something more. But at least this would be probably a good start. So basically a master detail view where you can add a new item onto an array. I hope there's not too much noise. There's somebody with a chainsaw in my backyard or next door. And then this would be the editor here. And we'll probably go with some kind of a darker theme. And then underneath the editor, I guess there's some action, maybe some action buttons as well. And that would be something like... run code, debug code, something to that effect. Run, debug. And I don't know if you can programmatically open up the console. It's like on Chrome, it's like Command-Shift-J. I think you could probably simulate. I've never seen anybody do it, but you might be able to send the window some keystrokes to do it, possibly. Let me just see if we can do that. That would be good to know. Quick how to open browser jobs programmatically. If it's console log, then you can say use your browser alert. Okay, that's his problem. Nobody answered. Stack Overflow is pretty good. If you don't use this already, you sort of got to really start to focus on getting your foo, especially when it comes to JavaScript. You used to have to say JS on the end of things, because you default to other languages. But now, for the most part, depending what you're saying, you almost don't have to, because JavaScript is just so common. Chrome send, this is interesting. You may use remote debugging page or you open up DevTools. This Chrome inspect, at least a solution. So you're sending, looks like you can send Chrome, we'll call it the operating system. Let's see, I'm in Chrome now. Yes, so it's Chrome dot. So this is just kind of an aside here. To open up the inspector, you should really bother to learn the keystrokes rather than doing the right click. The more accessible something is, the more you're going to use the tool. And when you're in the console here, there's this concept of window. Window is like the global environment for the browser. It's the top level of the objects here. And this is a little bit different than the DOM itself. The DOM is the construction. This is the code part. So at the top level, I quite often have some functions, and you can see what they are if I was to type window. And actually, the type ahead, and this works in all browsers, the type ahead will automatically start telling you all the top level functions. So it says Chrome. So if I start typing Chrome here, there is a Chrome function, and they are using Chrome.send. So there it is there. So it looks like that is a valid function. I didn't know about that. So we'll try that later on, and we'll see if we can programmatically open the window from a button, because I think that would be really handy. And then the people can try out their code. Okay, so we're gonna have a new snippet, the code editor, and I think that would be a good start for today. And then maybe down the road, we want to be able to save these snippets. And since I'm not building a back end, this is going to be an application that's not connected to FileMaker at all, at least at the moment. I think what we'll do is we'll just save the snippets to local storage on that person's computer. And then maybe if we wanted to, we could probably make a button here that pulls it out and puts it on the clipboard so they can maybe archive it or do something else later on. So it's kind of like a simple storage. Local storage is, everybody's heard about cookies. Local storage is something that's sort of similar. I'll just show you here. And it varies under different browsers. I think Safari, it's called storage. But in Chrome, it's called application. And if you look under here, you can see your cookies. So you'll see this Whimsical has some cookies that they have in here. And then if we look into here, local storage, there it is. So you can actually store things in this local storage. And I think there's a data limit of like a few megabytes or something like that, which is tons. And BetterForms, the editor, actually uses local storage. So when you're navigating around, if I go to the sites page, that page loaded almost instantly. And then what happens is it's actually checking the local storage and it's loading the data from there, because most of the time this stuff doesn't change very often. in between visits. And that way it makes it quicker for the user. Well, there's a couple bugs in this one since we added it, and we have to come back to that. And then same thing here. And then afterwards it fires a hook back to back to FileMaker. FileMaker gets the most accurate information and it comes back. So sometimes you will see this change if it's sorted, and it's sorted by last edited when it doesn't update instantly. So that could probably be programmed out as well. Okay, so that's kind of a quick thing on local storage. Guys, if you have any questions on anything, I'm just going to talk and babble on. But by all means, please just jump in there of what you think this tool could be. So what I'm thinking is we want to be able to use libraries. I want to be able to introduce people to libraries like Lodash. Lodash is this incredibly powerful library for FileMaker developers. It's probably the number one. This, and I would say JSON path. And this comes in a whole bunch of flavors because they've encoded it for a lot of different environments. And basically you can think of, actually this one, and one more is regular expressions. So let's go regex 101. Let's talk about these three tools just quick, because these are the kinds of things that I want to be able to pass that knowledge on to FileMaker developers. We don't have this access to this stuff as easy. So Lodash is a whole group of functions, and they all start with an underscore dot, right? So they're defined so they're quick to type. So, the JavaScript developers really like that and type it out quick, and they can remember. And they have different things. So I'm going to look at one called order by. And they all have these very standard methods of calling them. So you can basically take something like an array. Here's a very simple array: user Fred, user Barney, user Fred, and they have different ages. And with a very simple command, just like this, you can actually order this array. And you can try this stuff out. And this is how I would normally test this out. If I'm on a support call and somebody says, hey, how do you figure that out? I'd jump in the editor quick. And I would do this. I would literally grab responsive mode to turn that off. Where to go? Let's get it to the right column. There we go. I would literally grab this, and I can pretty much paste this in. Let me start with a clean slate here, and I can paste this right in the console. It's going to say undefined, so you think there's an error, but it's not. It means this result, when I initiated or instantiated this variable with this array, it returned nothing. But if I type in users now, I can see there's my array. So I want to have this kind of stuff accessible to somebody without having to learn too much in kind of a lesson format. And now let's see if I don't think Lodash is. Let me see if it's installed on this site. That would be good if it is. Yeah, it is. Okay. It would be pretty bad if they didn't put it in their own library. So now I can do something like this: Lodash in this here, and I can type this in here. I'm going to clear this off. So I can type that in, and when I hit return, it actually sorted those records, right? So then you start to realize, okay, I see what this is really doing, and then you start to look a little more carefully and understand how they're ordering things and so on, and there's common nomenclature. So this is a really powerful library, tons of examples in it, and that's something I'd like to expose to people. JSON Path is another really popular library, and it's not as popular as Lodash, but it's really, really, if you imagine SQL for JSON objects, that's what this is. It's an SQL for JSON objects. So it's a language where you can create these queries, and you can have these really big objects. And then from those objects, you can show me everybody who's, in class A and does this and does that and all these kinds of things. So this is a really powerful library for doing manipulation. So if you have a bunch of arrays or a huge array, and you're going through in FileMaker and you're doing some kind of iterative process, which is really, really slow, it's faster to turn it into JavaScript, use this library, and then bring it back again. And then the last one that's really powerful, now we can get access to this through base elements, has a regular expressions. You've heard of regex or regular expressions. And if you imagine yourself back in say 1979 computers when every byte counted, or even going back earlier, say 72 or so, when almost every bit for that matter counted, they had to come up with a way of doing string manipulations. I need to search through a bunch of text and find an email address. Well, they didn't do that, but they would find, say, certain strings like phone numbers and stuff like that. And you needed this method to do that. And instead of writing a whole computer language, they wrote this whole language that is represented by symbols. So let me see if there's some examples here, because this is a crazy powerful library. Here, let me just find the email. Email regular expression. Here we go. Okay, so you look at this sometimes and say, holy crap, man, look at this. Like, I'm supposed to learn this as a language. And like, you probably never ever will, but you'll get the general concept of it, and then you'll just Google the rest. And just to give you an idea how complex this is, lynda.com has a 6-hour course on it. I've never made it all the way through. I only make it to about hour 3, and then it's like I figure out what I need to do. But what it means is you can have this really complex, but it's down to it saves, like, it's only in bytes. So this is, 30 bytes or something like that. And it can do this complicated thing that can find the email. It's like the email could start with a finish or finish with a dot and all these rules. And that equation can do that. And so if you can wrap your head around that, how powerful that is, I'll show you an example of where this is used. Let's see if I have this still. I did some stuff for Geist a while ago. Generator. I don't think I got it. Yeah, maybe I got one right here. Okay. So does anybody ever use generator at all? Anybody? Bueller? All right. Okay, so generator is was a product. I don't know how well Geist supports it at the moment, but I think it's still available, and it's actually pretty good. It's kind of like Postman, so now we can use Postman because that's been introduced to our community, and we're like, then it's okay once somebody introduces it and talks about it. But you can use Postman, but what it does is it goes a step further, and it generates some strings. It generates some stuff that puts on the clipboard, and then you can paste that right into your file. Right, that's the general concept. But under this API Explorer, there should be a thing called import. And maybe this is an old version. Oops. But generator, if this is a newest, let me just see here. Curl parser. Okay. There's this thing in here called curl parser. And there's this guy who wrote this curl parser that's inside generator here. And what it does. Pardon me? All right, that's random. Okay. What it does is it takes a curl string. Have you ever seen the original? We don't see this as much in documentation now, actually. Even just in the past 5 years, documentation's changed tremendously. But you still sometimes see these big curl strings, and we still have to fundamentally do that in FileMaker, generate those. It takes that string and it parses it out. Now, if you know anything about the curl strings, you got like -H, and then you put a header, and you put 2 other parameters for the key value of the header and things like that. So if you had to write a parser that can parse this string, and the string can have all different types of variants in the string, and stuff can be out of order, and you need to convert that into a FileMaker string. So convert a random string of curl into a FileMaker, into key value pairs into a JSON object. So that's really what this does. And it uses a regular expression to parse all of that. So that's an example of regular expressions and why they're so powerful. Once you start to sort of see the value of it, then you can really, really use it. And you can use regular expressions in BetterForms because they're effectively JavaScript, and other languages as well. There's subtle variants. So some of these regular expression editor sites, this one's regex 101 is not too bad. Some of them are, they'll ask you what flavor, if you want to use JavaScript or whatever flavor it is you want to use, open an editor. And just to give you an idea. So here's a bunch of strings, and you can see that this bit of code is picking out all of these things here. I think that's really, really cool. Just a tiny, tiny bit of code, because it's a matching algorithm or a matching language, if you will. So anyhow, so those are the kinds of things that I'd like to be able to introduce to our community, which virtually nobody ever talks about. I don't think I've seen any articles really talk about these kinds of things, and they are incredibly powerful tools. Like there's stuff that you should have in your tool belt once you understand basic JSON or basic JavaScript. Okay, So that's really that's sort of the impetus to this tool here. So I'm thinking, just like I tested out some of those things, we could, find an email parser and we could maybe look on some kind of marketplace and grab that code. Now these are libraries, so we'd want to add these libraries into this app here as well. And I don't know how. Maybe this would be better with tabs. I don't know if there's some tabs in here. Any kind of tabs? Can you search tab? Table, mobile tabs, vertical tabs, horizontal tabs. Maybe that. What's this do? I don't know what I'm doing here, so bear with me. Oh, okay. Oh, okay, I see. Test tab 1. This is tab 2. So this would be like modules, includes. So I'm just thinking, maybe if we did this, and this is like some kind of tabs, and that would be tab, and those would be like module includes, so JS includes, something like that. There'd be the equivalent of a BetterForms DOM header insertions, and this would be the editor. Editor. And then I think it'd be nice to have a preview. It's really nice typing and seeing your stuff instantly. But it's really challenging as well, because when you're typing things and you're parsing that on the fly, and what I mean by that is in BetterForms, we can let me just take an HTML block. We can take an HTML block and we can click on the editor and we can edit right here, right? So I can actually, define classes, and I can do really cool things here, like, padding 4, background blue, 200, gotta spell, and that kind of thing, right? So it'd be really neat to be able to do that and work with this kind of power by taking all this data right from FileMaker and be a little bit more tightly coupled without BetterForms, right? But using the same tech. So that's what I'm thinking. So that would be kind of good to be able to do that. Although there is a problem with doing that. And if you've used the BetterForms editor, you know that occasionally it crashes when you're doing that. And it's really, really hard to prevent that, because you're compiling that bit of code and you're making it reactive, and you're doing all of that stuff on the fly. And sometimes there's errors. And if there's an error, we try to trap most of the errors, but if you miss one, that could be a problem. So maybe, I don't know how the preview would work here. Maybe this could come down in the preview for the preview tab. The preview tab would be, or maybe we turn preview on and off. Let's see if there's a checkbox maybe, or something like that, because you might not care about the preview. And we could actually run the JavaScript and we could produce a result here too without even going into the console. So maybe we could have a result down here, result window of some sort. And give me an idea if you guys think. I want to build this out in BetterForms, right? So this could sort of be like the result here. I just click and type like FileMaker? No, I can't, but that's interesting. I hit a key and it automatically takes me over to here. So let's try this again. So if I hit a key and I want a checkbox, if I just go check, oh, sweet. Look at that. Isn't that nice? Isn't that a cool feature? See, this is a beautiful UI. Anna was talking about this, our UX designer, and she was saying that she just interviewed somebody at her other job, and they did a design challenge. I guess that's the thing you do, like a thesis or whatever, when you're a UX person. And they did a design challenge on this because it's so clean and there's almost minimal, and there's a really high level of functionality. So I want checkbox. So I just start typing up. I guess it's not Charles proof. Checkbox. There we go. And oh yeah, just click. That's right. And what is it? Show preview. Show. I think maybe a console and preview or something like that. Maybe a toggle instead. Toggle. Okay, I don't know what I'm doing. Checkbox again. Checkbox, there we go. Toggle. I don't know why I didn't take toggle when I tried to toggle, but let's just do that. And then I think we need, I don't know, you put some text on there, but this would be maybe preview between console result. And because I'd like this to be able to, down the road, you can use Vue.js, because if too many of these, and preview. So something like that. I think that would be kind of good. I think that would be a really ambitious start just to build that out. Excuse me. Okay, I'm just going to save this. Untitled. This is an interesting design pattern, and we still haven't done this in FileMaker too much. You start to almost see it. I think I've seen maybe one design. This was so foreign when I first saw this, like, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago, that you would just click on the word and you would edit it. And now it's like, well, of course you would do that. But that's an example of a design pattern. And this one's interesting because it doesn't, I guess that's a placeholder. As soon as I type it, it'll probably disappear. Yeah. So we're coming up with a little widget that does this too, so you can pop that in anywhere. And this is going to be the FMJS workbench. Excuse me. Okay. So what I want to do is, I haven't really started this at all. So I'm going to jump over to BetterForms, and I did create a new site called FM something or other, JS something. There it is, FMJS Workbench, for lack of a better name. And I created a domain. That's the only thing I've done so far. But I do want to do a couple other things. I'm gonna use Tailwind in this because it's still not official, but we're pretty much gonna make it the de facto CSS framework for BetterForms. And in order to do that, I'm gonna open up another browser window. And I'm going to steal my configuration from another file. That'll just make it a little bit easier. So actually, I have one I was working on this morning called Production Flow. And Production Flow is, oh, crap, no, it's a different one. I can't use that one. Let's use Demo. That'll do. And I'm going to grab, I can ignore all of this stuff down here. That's for various demos when you click on those examples. But I'm going to grab these Tailwind resets, and you can find these in the snippets as well. So FM Workbench, CSS, appearance, CSS there. And you can, let's see, user joining classes. Yeah, that's fine. Okay. And we don't need any name actions. We'll get rid of that in a second. And DOM headers insertions is the other one I want to use. So I want to include the Tailwinds library. And I'm going to include Font Awesome Pro as well, I think. And let's see if there's anything else I want out of this one. I don't think so for now. So that's it. Okay. So I'm going to swipe those out of there. Paste and save. And this is FMJS. If you're playing the home game, FMJS.FM BetterForms. Right? And then you can kind of follow along. Okay, I'm gonna move this there. I see some people, as you know, I do a lot of screen sharing with probably almost everybody on our call here. And so I spend probably, and this is not an exaggeration, but I spend usually between 3 and 5 hours a day on that. The odd time it's like only 2 hours, but very seldom. So I see a lot of people's desktops and a lot of tabs, and I see some people have so many tabs open. And I'll watch them, and you watch the mouse going back and forth and back and forth, and I'll do it. You'll see it with me doing it. I only have 4 tabs, right? And everybody claims that they can manage to know where all the tabs are, but when you're going like this, you don't really know. So I usually try to go in hierarchy. Like, it's kind of silly, but my referential stuff will go on the right, and my most site-like things will go on the left. And then I'll work my way across. So in this case, I'm stealing stuff from this. So that's a little hierarchy. And then I'm working my way across. And then when I'm done this tab, I click on this and they all stay ordered. It's maybe a little pedantic. I don't know. All right. So we got that. Let's add a page to our site. And I think what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to, let's grab a new page, create a new page for this. And I don't have any new ones. So I'm going to create a new page. I'm going to prefix my pages. In the future, you won't have to do this. But we do right now. I'm not going to have any scoped hook sets. I'm going to turn authentication off. And I'm going to call it FMJS. I'm going to prefix all of my pages so that they're kind of like pseudo namespaced. I can find them. And we'll call this home. home, save, copy this. I can go back over to my first tab, and I'm going to add this into, oops, my bad. Let's see this again. Tab, swap these again. And I'm going to go back into my site and I'll match my page, stick my page in there. FMJS. Appearance, navigation, get rid of this defaulto stuff, and we'll pop it in there. Okay. And I think we should be good. Let's see. In theory, this should be a different page. Okay, so there we go. All right, now, so I got my default page, and I'm going to be using some new features that are coming out with new page styles. And BetterForms has kind of an opinion on the base code of a page. The wizard was like one of the very first ones that was part of the framework, and now we're getting rid of all of that opinion. So there's a new form called form blank, and it's basically an unopinionated page. And so it doesn't have things like headers, and because the header had an opinion and it has some other things. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to actually copy my setup from another one of my pages. In the future, we have a wizard coming out that can do this. And I want to think of a page that uses this here. All right, I think this one here uses that. Here's something we're doing. This is kind of cool. I'm trying to work on build a new marketing site. And I thought, you know what, we try to eat our own dog food for everything we do. So within reason, like I'm not going to build my own CRM because that would just take a lifetime. But we can, this is just really, really rough. So don't judge it. But this is a new marketing site that's totally served out of BetterForms. So it's not built yet. The colors aren't there. It's just putting content in right now. But the whole thing's responsive. And what's going to be really neat is since it's BetterForms, anything that we want to embed in the page, we can have full control over. That means the pricing pages can be totally dynamic and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to actually steal that page because I know it's using that new format. Excuse me. All right, and this is actually reduced quite a bit, so I am going to copy that, and we're going to paste this in here. I don't want to retype my description there. Did I do that right? Okay, and that one is a dupe. This is description. Don't need those. Okay, I think that's it. Save. Just see here. And let's go into our page builder and see here. Okay. Actually, you know what I should do? This will be easier. We have this particular new form, this new page. It actually requires a little bit of setup. So I'm actually going to dupe an existing page and start with that because I think that'll be easier if I just duplicate this one here. We have a new wizard, and I've shown a lot of people already just to get some feedback. And it creates all of this stuff, so you don't have to do this in the future. But you have to do it manually until you understand all the caveats of everything. Okay. Appearance, navigation, and let's put this new page in here. Okay, so that should be a copy of my marketing page for now, and then I'm going to got it. Yeah, perfect. All right, we'll do that. Now, one of the things I've been doing for design, BF marketing home copy, that's it there. Change that to FMJS. Is I've been really using groups a lot. And grouping is just a way of, it's a hierarchical way of managing pages. And FMGS home. It's funny, I don't recall turning that off. Okay, hopefully I didn't mess something up here. Oh yeah, I did. There we go. This is what I'm looking for. Okay, there we go. All right, and so this idea of pages, and I'm using our staging editor. So it's got a newer version of software. You can always tell what version of software that we run. And this is 832, which is yet, and our app, main app is 823. So it's, maybe a dozen builds behind or something like that. But this new version has some ability to do some code folding, which is kind of handy. So I can fold my code and I can see all my groups of things. In this case, it's got like a header, footer, and things like that. And I want to keep some of these. So I like to. A lot of people ask, how do you create annotations or notes, comments in JavaScript or JSON? Sorry, and you can use underscore note. I actually just prefer underscore like that because it's good enough. I know and I usually put them in capitals so they stand out a little bit more. And they always float to the top. So even if they get sorted by whatever, they float up to the top. And that's an easy way of putting annotations in your JSON. And so this thing has a nav bar at the top. We're going to get rid of that. And we're going to get rid of a whole bunch of things. Well, I need a couple of these here. So I'm envisioning my page. If I look at my page, so I got 3 groups here, and I'm gonna gut the insides of these fields here, just like this and like this, just for a second. Now, if you look at my thing here, I'm gonna have to figure out how I want to slice up this page. And although I don't think it's practical to build this tool, how are we doing for time? 40 minutes in, okay. I don't think it's practical to build this for use on a phone since you can't open the console. But somebody's going to open it up on a tablet, or they're going to be on a smaller device. Someone's going to try. So you got to think about what's going to happen. So I think this will be one group here, and then in one section, and then this will be another section. This whole area will be another section, and the top and the bottom will just be 2 elements within that section. So this is maybe some tabs, and then one tab element for the whole page probably, and then the this is the first element, another element of a bug, an element of a thingy here, and can I move those up? Yeah, maybe something like this, and the preview area. I don't know if I can put text in there. Will be down below. So I think something along those lines, and we're probably going to need some more buttons here. I don't know what for, but something like that. And these will be. Might change the color now. It's weird. Does that do something? No. Oh, expand. I see. That's brutal. There. Maybe because if you're a designer, you're like really maybe you got some kind of mouse foo or something, and you can like click on these small targets. But I find that target really hard to hit. It'd be nice if it just kind of hovered and maybe it changed automatically or something like that. Okay, now my button's got no button. All right, well, I get the idea. Okay. So I think I'm going to break this into 2 groups, 1 group, 2 groups. And the reason for that is I can control the width and I can control the stuff inside that group really easily. And I'm finding that works nice. This should be empty now, I think. Yeah, we're pretty much empty. Looks like there's a little bit of header stuff in here. So we'll get that out too. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab an HTML block, and just to give you an idea, and this is going to be like a page template. We'll call this header. I just replaced it with the same thing. I'll call it left side and right side. Header, left side, right side, something like that. Actually, no, just left side. We don't need a header in here. There. Okay, so, and let me grab my HTML block. I'm going to pop this in here. Just something in there, and this is left And this is right. There we go. Okay. Boom, boom. There we go. And it doesn't look like left and right at the moment. And the reason for that is because these are just two objects. And I'm going to actually get rid of all of the style classes, all of the opinion in here for now. So there's no definition of style. And I am going to say, in this one, I'm going to say background gray 200. Now, wouldn't it be nice if we had a template that had this already built out coming? And this goes, say, 300, so they're just slightly different colors. We should have two little things there. There we go. So you can see that this first one is sitting at top and below, right? So I need to make them side by side. So what I really want to do is if I go to Tailwind, and this is not just a Tailwind thing, it's a CSS thing, but Tailwind makes CSS life a lot easier. And I want to learn about Flex. And Flex is a method for making boxes stretchy, right? And the order that they're stretching in. So you can see that if I just specify a couple items, I get two blocks that kind of sit like this. And in my case, my blocks are full width, so they're sitting one above and one below. And then I can make a certain block flex. This one here is designed to stretch, and this one will stretch, and then this one will, maybe stretch different, and so on. Like you can see that one there. So that's a general concept. I won't get into that one because it's like a whole other talk. But flex, and I actually want something called flex column, flex direction. There we go. And you can see that I can go here. If I flex into row, they go that way. And if I go column, they go this way. So I want, let me see, where's mine? I want right now, they're just kind of going down here. So I want to, first of all, I want to wrap this around and flex. So we have this new ability in the miscellaneous tab, and it's called style classes page, style classes body. So first of all, and I'm going to specify a background color for the body, just so you can see what's going on. So background, red 100, and let's save that. And let me just see if that's okay. And let me just, okay, and just a second here. Let's put, there's a couple of these. We don't have these aren't fully documented yet because we've been changing the words. And as soon as we start making it available, people will start using it permanently. Red, green, colorblind, so that's probably not a good idea. Yellow. Okay, and we actually can't see this background yellow 100 style classes page form blank. That's fine. And I need to also specify the height of this page. So I want this height of the screen, and I want this one the same. I'll explain what those are in a sec. I cannot see this color very well. There we go. Okay, it's all the same. All right, so what's happened here is I've made the container that holds this page. We'll have some better illustrations and surface this information more. But the most recent builds from 9.9 and up of BetterForms, we have a lot more ability to dial these things in. So I've specified those, this red one here, which is the body, and to be the full height. And I want to add the word flex in here. And that should, yeah, there we go. So it's hard to tell because the colors are so same, but here's the left box, here's the right box. Now I can actually specify the width. So if I wanted to go over to my boxes in between, let's go to page builder. And if I wanted to specify these boxes, like this one, a certain width, I could say, width 64, say, and there we go. We've got this one at 64. I need to change those colors because I can't see the difference very well. Gray 300, let's go gray 400. And then if I wanted to specify, that's that group. And if I wanted to specify this group to, I could say flex 1, I believe, and that will fill the rest of the space. So let's see if that works okay. No, it almost works okay, but I think I gotta make this group here a little wider. So that one there. So what I'm doing is I'm just going into the editor, into the console and mousing over, and I can see where the actual lines are. So I can see, okay, that one's great. That one's perfect. That's exactly what I want. I could actually put a background color in there if I wanted to. Like if I want to say background blue, 200, 300, sure, that's my second choice. There we go. You can see that it's actually sitting in there, right? And then this one here, the problem is the container, I think, is not wide enough. So let me just see. Let me just try this. Let's just give it a width. Just a width of, say, 3/5 of the screen. Yeah, it's going to the parent, this one here. Okay, so this one doesn't have full width on it right now, which is the 100. Let me just see. There we go. Okay. So the 100, so these will all be defined for you in the future. You won't have to worry about any of this stuff with full. But the idea, what we've done is we've taken all of that's already built into BetterForms already, but we've taken it all out so that you can have full control. And it's going to allow for more complicated things like side drawers. Like you can build stuff like that, right? Where you can see this drawers popping in and out. And that's kind of taking advantage. It's actually a column in here that's hidden, and then we're just making it visible. So that was the whole purpose of that, because we need those kind of tools for ourselves as well. Okay, so there we go. So now I got the left side and I got the right side, and the right side's filling up the entire gap, which is perfect. That's kind of what I want. And I want to have that responsiveness. And this is one of the reasons everybody says, oh, how come FileMaker's not responsive? Well, responsive is hard because there's so many conditions. Like what happens, when does it show up? When does it not show up? And it's very hard for FileMaker to make a simple responsive thing. Even these site builders like Wix and things like that, they when you get into the responsive side, to simplify it or dumb it down, they give you two sizes, right? Mobile and big, and then you basically have two layouts. But because it's really, really complicated underneath the hood a little bit. But if you think about these as containers, I got one big container, which is my page, or my body, my page, and then I have a container here and a container here. And this one here has an HTML block. That's that thing right there. And you even see the H2 tag on it. This one has another one here, and I've colored these backgrounds accordingly. And then I have these two groups in here as well. So when I go back over to here, I don't have any colors on my groups, but if I was to color the group, the left group will make orange, say, background orange 200, and the right group will make red, just so you can see 200. Oops, undo, space, save. We should have, there we go. So now you can see where it's really happening, right? You can sort of understand it more. All right, and that's what I want. I want this one wider though, because it's got to go wider. So let's have a look at our design, and we want to put in. I think I'll just stick a table in here, right? I could build this out of HTML really easily, but I think I'll just use a table, which means I need some objects in my table. So I'm going to put a table on the left side instead of my text, and on the right side we'll put maybe the tabs. The only problem is our tab widget doesn't have these properties. You can't easily access the properties to make the tab widget go full height, which is really what I want to be able to do. I want to have it controlled, but we can this one, so maybe I can still figure it out, because the tab would come right down to this area here, right along to the bottom. Okay. So I need a table. So let's put a table. Table. I've been noticing this thing lately. Sometimes when I go in here and I start typing, I thought I highlighted everything, and it doesn't actually highlight. So I'm finding I'm catching it going away. I don't know what I have to do to reproduce it. It's one of those things that show up. I'm sure we can code it out somehow. Table. And we have, this is the left side. I'll leave the left words in there for now. There's our table. Now we need some table, needs some data, and we're going to call the model, we'll call it snippets. Snippets. And if you haven't used a development data model, it's under this tab and you got to turn it on. So I basically want to create just some mock data. I want to call it snippets. Snippets, and let's throw some data in there, and it's definitely going to have an ID. Technically it doesn't have to, but it's going to have an ID, and we'll give that a 1. It's not going to be a number, it's going to be a string, because later on, if we ever want to have a unique ID, it's most likely going to be that. And then it's probably going to have a key called like name, I think is a good one. And snip1. We have a BetterForms user who's built a it's a interface for a doctor. He's specializes in vasectomies, and his name is Dr. Snips. Literally, that's this site. So that it's like drsnips.fm BetterForms or something like that. I think that's kind of well, anyway. All right, and maybe later on we'll have some kind of description, notes, something like that. I call it notes. I use lowercase, I don't like uppercase because the rest of the world doesn't use uppercase when it comes to this kind of stuff. So I try to follow the same conventions, and then it's less cognitive load when I'm trying to understand or grok information. This is a note. All right, and I'll put a comma on the end and highlight the whole thing. Here's a really real trick with editors, and I see people always kind of go like this, and they're trying to highlight things and they're trying to get precise with that mouse. Just put your mouse at the end of the word and go straight up. Right to there. And I'm not even going to here, I'm going up another one. So that means I get a carriage return and finishing with a comma. If I press Command-Shift-D, now I perfectly repeat my object. Get rid of that last trailing comma, change some IDs in Moroccan. 2, 3, 3, 4, and one more, 5. Okay. So now we have ID, name, and notes. So let's go back over to our thing here, and columns, we're just going to have a name. I'm not going to have the notes or a description. I'm going to get rid of that. Just the name only. I'll get rid of that. Headings, name. It's not going to say person name. If you don't leave anything in here, it'll just capitalize the name of the key. So I'm going to call it a snippet. Now just name. Snippet. And order by name, that's fine. Preserve state, that's part of if you want the browser to remember the filtering and stuff. Like you notice when you go back at the pages here, it stays on the same filter. That's what that's for. I don't want striped because it's not necessary. There's not that much data, and we're going to make them bigger. Table hover is good. Sortable by name. I don't think they need to sort it at all. It's just more UI garbage to get rid of. And I think there's one called filterable that you can get rid of too. Filterable. And if I say filterable false, you can get rid of the, we're going to have to make this wider because it's not going to be wide enough. Data table. So there we go. Here's our snippets there. It's kind of ugly, but we'll fix it up in a second. And there's some real fruit salad going on here, but that's okay. So, I can close this. Don't need this. So there's my table, and it says data table. Where does it say that? Find data. There it is there. And we'll call it snippets. I think it already said it though, right? I don't think, yeah, we don't need that. We don't even need the label. Let's lose it. Most of the time we put labels on stuff. It's like not necessary. I had a bit of an argument once with a prospect because he wanted us to design something, but he wanted a download button on his screen. And I said, well, we can put the download button, that's fine, but let's just call it, put the icon and the label. I think it was like a report or something like that. And he says, no, my users are not very smart, and we have to have a label above it that says, click here to download. And I said, I'm sorry, I can't build something that says click here to do anything. I told him, I said, I'd build it for free if you can find me a website that says click here. That's built in the last, 5 years. Anyhow, so we got our left panel, right panel, and our tools. There's a little bit of space around here. We're going to adjust some of that stuff because I'm not going to use, I'm not going to use Bootstrap in here at all. So this says it's going to go full width. I'm going to get rid of that. And by default, it'll go full width anyway. Our name column says 4, but I don't need that either. So there we go. So we remove all of that stuff, and that'll bump that out a little bit, which is nice. Now, if I don't really want this right against the edge, so what I can do is this whole group, I want to indent the whole group, right? There's a little space above this thing, and BetterForms, we still haven't coded this out, and it's coming. And this is one of the reasons why we haven't released all these new features yet. But there's an automatic space that gets added in, right? It's 16 pixels that get added in. So what we sometimes do is we add another class called margin bottom, and we zero that out. But so what I want to do is, I think this is pretty good. Actually, I want to make it a little nicer, but we'll get the functionalities later on. And I'm just going to add a little bit of padding around the whole thing. So that is that group. So if I think there is my group there, and the author of Tailwind recommends, and I sort of see why he started. You can put these classes in any order. So I could put like padding, let's say 2 here. But padding is kind of more about the size. So you put the size stuff on the left and the more detailed stylings on the right. So you'd put widths go first, then paddings, then hover states of colors, then the colors themselves, and so on. That kind of doesn't really matter. It's kind of an ordering convention. All right, so we got a little bit of space, and that's just a bit of breather room, right? So we can get rid of the yellow now. And wherever that, it's orange, I guess it is. Orange is a funny color because you can't get dark orange. It's really just brown. So I'm told. There we go. Okay. And I can actually change the page background, but I'm going to leave it to the default one, and we'll experiment later on. So there we got our different snippets. Probably change the names of those. And we'll create an action. So when we click on the snippet, we're going to load the code. So that means our snippet actually has to have some code in it. So we will need a key, and we'll call it maybe code. It may not always be JavaScript. Right now we're just doing JavaScript, so I'll call it code. I guess that's okay. Jason knows I spend probably half of our pair coding time figuring out a name for things. It's brutal. So bad like that, but it really does make a difference. I'm working on a system where another developer has mixed names, and he's fairly consistent, but it's still not that consistent. And it's amazing how much time I've spent debugging stuff. Okay, 1, 2, there, and then the code would go in there. All right, so basically what we want to do is we need the editor over on the right-hand side, and we'll probably throw an empty state in there as well. Empty states are like what happens when there's nothing selected. So over here we have tabs and includes, and this will all be contextual to that snippet. So let's add the tabs in there first. Page builder. If you've noticed when you duplicate a page, if you're in our staging server, you'll go to the old page. Like you can tell because it's tab order, but if I was to go out of here and then come back into FMJS, right? It's like an Easter egg. It's like it's a different page. Page builders, the tab is changed to the first position. And I'm not sure, you guys let me know how you think. We moved this page info to the end, but really all of this stuff that's on this page is actually going to be gone. It's all going to be buried into the UI, and the new page will be, we can even use it. It's a little experimental, but I'll go for it. The new page has one of those inline editors, right? It has some of the stuff buried away in here in a contextual menu. And I think we're even not going to go with this design, because most editor type things, including like even this, whatever this app is here, Whimsical, they get rid of all of the UI. Like it's so minimal, yet it's a crazy powerful app. And they do that so they maximize the workspace. And I think what we want to try to do maybe in BetterForms is to kind of go along that approach. We were starting to make it more MailChimpy, if you will, where you have these big spaces above and like, hey, it's very easy to use. But I don't think this is too much harder to use by having this, because I've seemed to be making out just fine and it doesn't look too bad. So it couldn't be too bad. But anyhow, that's something that's coming, and we're playing around with. Okay, what was I doing? If you have questions, by the way, or if you probably got me on mute, by all means, just chime right in. I want to put a tab panels there, right? Tab form. I just forget which one it is. Which one is this one here? Tab form, I think that's the one I want here. And we want to put it on the right side, and I want to get rid of my, I'll keep my text there for now. Comma, paste, tab, paste, enter, save, refresh. Bingo. Okay. Well, it's got some width. We're going to make it full width, and we can get rid of the red. So it's got some half width stuff going on in here. That's inside the forms. We're going to get rid of that. And I want, this is the one here. There. I was thinking that there's a technique where you can open up another window like this, and we can send JavaScript, between these two windows because they came from the same source. And that's how a lot of these tools that open up another window where edit, and then when you close the main window, the other window closes and stuff. That's how they work. So I think what we could do with this app is maybe some kind of a preview or a live preview, something along this direction where we click live preview, and I think the button would actually sit up here, would make more sense. And then you click that would open up the other tab. And when you make the saves, it would fire it up in the other tab. So a lot of people, I work with a single monitor, but a lot of people, almost everybody has multiple monitors, and then they could open it up on a second one. So I guess that would make this not make a lot of sense down here, but we'll figure it out. So really, this should all be designed already, right? That's what a designer would do. Okay, so we got this is right. This is left. I'm gonna leave that in there just as a reminder instead of just saying this is left. And I'm gonna change that to FMJS editor. And there we go. And this is right will be, it's not always code editor. That has to do with the particular tab that we're on. I like that it doesn't select the parent object. It doesn't select this. You can't select that. That's really good. Smart. Okay, so it'd be something like that, I think. Do we even need to say it's an editor? We can figure it out, right? It's code. It's going to be a big black screen, so if you don't know that, you shouldn't be using it. All right, okay. So I think, and we'll get these lined up a bit, I think we'll go like that. So we've got the tabs, so we need a tab. Let's label the tabs. Let's go bigger, and I'm going to get rid of my field contents, blow that out. And field contents. If you double click on the inside of square braces, you can delete the contents. And this one is going to be called editor. I'm going to say code editor might change. And this one will be called, includes libraries, and includes something like that. And we'll figure out the icons later on. Fred, one of our UX designers that consults with us, he doesn't like icons. He says they don't do any good. And I don't see why a user icon is not good for an editor. And a home for libraries, totally. So it sort of makes sense, but I think if we can pick the right ones. Okay, so we're going to do a couple things. We're going to bring this off this edge here a little bit by a couple pixels as well, so we're not rammed up against the edges over here. That's something that it's very hard to do in the current version of the page layout, and I'm going to lose that header text. So let's do that. And okay, I got another 21 minutes. And we want on the entire area, we can lose the red now. Yeah, flex one is to make it expand. And I want, what do I want? I want the padding of 2. I think that should be doing it. Okay, great. That's good. And I can lose the background color there too. And overall page color. So let's go back over to here. Now that we know where everything is sitting, we don't need these little tricks anymore. Okay. And there's one at the top here too. Right there. And I'm actually going to make this height. It's 32 big 16. Tailwinds goes in one, it's not quite binary increments, but they go up in increments of once you get past 10, they go up in increments of 2, but they kind of jump anyway. Each number in Tailwinds represents on a normal screen, it represents 4 pixels. So that would be 64 pixels that I'm adding in there, just adding some space in there. And if I really wanted to bring this thing down, I could style this up really cool. So let's do that. Actually, let's make it, that's more motivating. Class equals, and I'm going to go with kind of like a white text. So I'm going to go background black, text white, WHITE. We need some padding. So padding of, say, 4. There we go. Font bold. Hyphen bold. And I think that's good. We're going to make it a bit bigger, text a bit bigger too. Oh, we're going to make around the corners rounded. And a little bit more medium, something like that. And I think text just a tad bit bigger because it's the same size right now. It's a little light. Did I? Yeah. So text, looks like we don't have the default styles. I didn't bring those across. Text, where am I? Right here. Text 2XL, 3XL, 3XL. There we go. Font bold. There we go. Save. And let's see what we got. I think it's going to be straight end up against the corners. Not bad. Kind of cool, actually. I kind of almost like, yeah, all right, good enough. All right, and it looks like I must have done something when I changed my styles there. So if you're not sure what you did, you can just take your finger away from the mouse and you can kind of hit undo right in here somewhere. Fix column width. I think it's because of the contents. I don't have a fixed width of the contents of my panel. So I'm going to leave that for now. I think flex 1, P2, yeah. I think I can leave it for now. There, save. Okay, I'll fix it in a sec. Enter info. We don't need that. Okay, and save. And now in our editor tab, we want to put an editor. So we use Ace editor as the default one. Code editor, it's called. Oops, wrong tab. Code editor. And I want to put it in my right side. Editor, paste. All right, and there's a way of specifying the theme as well. Okay, so let's make it full width. Model is going to be called, we're going to create now, this is what I think is really good practice, excuse me, is the default data. You really want to start building out the stuff that you're using so you can wrap your head around it. And I'm going to create an object called active snippet. Active snippet, and it'll be an object, and it'll be an object, it'll be an object containing the active snippet, and a typical snippet would look like this. Right? Okay. So let's pretend active snippet, and we also need a key. We could, I think we'll create an active snippet index, active snippet index. That's the which one we're, if you double click on something, hit quotes, you can wrap them really easy. And I'm going to say it's index 0. It's the first one. comma. There we go. So by doing this, I sort of build out a bit of an object, and I really don't, the active snippet will actually, let me copy this stuff over to here, because when I first load the app, this is probably going to be null, and my active snippet is probably not going to be selected. It's probably going to be empty too, but yeah, most likely. And then when I'm using my development data, I still have an active snippet and an active, I don't have the dev tools turned on, so let's do that too. And by having that in there, now I can point my editor to something. All right, so let me just turn the dev tools on first. There it is there. Okay. Let's go back to here. And did I save this? Yeah, save, refresh. There we go. Okay, so now we got our code editor, and I think it defaults to JSON. Yeah, okay. So we want to start off, it's JavaScript editor is really what this app is called right now. So we'll keep it in the JavaScript range. So what we need to do is pretty easy. We just have to say language, JS. I think it's JS or JavaScript, one of the two. And I'm going to fix this thing here. Okay, let me just see var. It doesn't look quite right. Maybe it's JavaScript. There, let's try that. Yeah, so now we get the syntax highlighting. So if I say, var count equals 5, it says, oh, there's already a problem there, 5, there we go. It's giving you a warning. Technically with JavaScript, you don't actually have to have a semicolon. And there's like us and them, the people who say it's okay to leave it without it, and the other people who have to go. So it doesn't really matter though. Where you do need to have a semicolon, if you're going to put stuff on one line. So if you're going to say var and then var count is 5, and then you go count plus, that would like increment it. That's like a short form for count equals count plus 1. And then if I was to do something like console log count, I could put all that stuff on one line. It'd be really bad, but you could do it. And the formatting works quite well in here too. So that's really another bonus for using this editor. Okay, let's see what's going on. So it's kind of working. And then my goal is over the next 12 minutes to get this click, and we'll just save that stuff and push it back. So we're gonna have to fly here and not explain so much, but and let me just see what's happening here. This is a tricky one. So the structure of our new structure of our pages, it goes from basically the app, and then underneath the app is you have a page wrapper. And then inside the page is the body. And the reason there's a page wrapper and then the body is because the body is your main form that you're loading in and out. And then the page is going to be the, if you have a side window that opens up, that's on the page, but it's not part of the body. So if you can sort of think about it that way. And that's what you actually see here. This is a slot. BetterForms under the hood went and looked at my site and it said, oh, do you have any body slots? And not body shots, that's later on, but body slots that they would normally sit in here, right? So that's what's happening there. So if you ever look under the hood and you see these empty things, it's because there's no code to put in there. So it keeps a placeholder there. All right, so here's my page. And then inside my page, I have another section here. And then I have this one and this one. And this one says width full, and this one is padding 2, and this is flex. I thought we had a flex on here. There we go. I must have deleted that. Okay, so let's go back over there. I must have taken it off. You probably saw me. Yeah, look, my cursor's even in the same spot that it was. I bet you if I hit undo. Yeah, no, I don't see it, but okay, it's okay. Page, no, it's body. It's this one here. Let's see here. Yeah, there it is. See, I deleted flex when I did it. So I'm just gonna, let me just go back. We'll add it back in. Thought it was on the other side, but it's not. Okay. So now we have our basic page. It doesn't really make sense with this gray background and then the tabs. The tab panel background is a different color. I think I'll make the whole page white. So we can change that, and you can do that really easy. Just background white right here, BG white. So this is stuff that you wouldn't, was a little trickier to do. You had to do in CSS. Now you're not going to have to be able to do it in the future. And there we go. Okay. So we kind of got a thing. I'll put some padding around the whole thing, I think, as well, because it's like kind of tight in here. But our goal is now we need some actual code. So let me grab a little bit of dummy code to put into this active snippet. We don't have a code key. Oh, yes, we do. Here, code. I'm just going to say var count equals 5. Okay. And that should by default, because, oh, actually, I didn't look. Let me just see, what is our editor pointing to? So we go over to our editor here, and the source for where's the model? Right there. There. It's going to be active snippet dot code. So whatever the active snippet is, so I'm going to select one of those snippets on the side, not here. Same idea though. And whichever one the active one is, we'll set that JavaScript wise. We'll put that as the active one in a function. And then the code, sorry, eyes are getting blurry. Then the code is that key that we want to point it to. So if I refresh, it's working correct. We should see, there we go. So now we have the active snippet. So this is just pseudo stuff, right? It's not totally wired up, but we're almost wired up. We're really, really close to having this little bit of code. Then we got to put a function button. And I think that's a fair landmark since we had to, spend so much time designing this. And we'll have to put some space around the whole thing. That's not so good. So let's do that. I'm going to increase the padding there and let's make the button. So we'll do two things. We will, so I got left side right here, padding 2. We're going to go padding 6 here and padding 6 there. And then we want to actions on row click. That's the one I'm looking for. Now I could put I could put my function right here. Just like in FileMaker, you can take a button and you can stick a script right underneath that button. But it's better practice when you click on a button to run a script. You can script step underneath the button. It's better practice to run the script as a named action. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to call it snippet select. I think there's going to be a bunch of stuff related to snippets, so they'll all be sorted by snippet select, right? And in snippet select will be my my action. And incidentally, we have, if I go here, snippet select, this is the new editor, how it works. You can kind of see that. I just go snippet. It's not quite, it's a little bit buggy. That's why I'm not using it right now. It was working, but I broke it, so it's okay. All right. Okay, so I think we're good there. Let's save that and let's refresh this. Oh, we need to actually call that snippet, don't we? I guess we still have to do that. So I need to put a named action here. Unfortunately, we don't have a snippet for that, so we should really add one, but it's easy. It's action, and then it's the type of action is called named action. In other words, perform script. And then action. Underneath action is the name. And that's the perform script. What is the name of the script? And I called it snippet select. So snippet select. There we go. So now when I click on a row, it's going to run snippet select. I feel pretty confident it's going to work, but I still tend to build things out in baby steps. So I would grab an alert. It's like a kind of a go-to, and I would stick we used to have this tab, anyway, I still make mistakes there. Actually there is an alert already in that snippet select. So I'm going to grab that alert and then click on that. And then let's see if we got that wired up. So I click on that and I must have made a mistake. On actions on row click, named action, snippet select. That looks correct. Snippet select, and then snippet select. Did I make something? I'm just gonna, because I went and played around in this thing here. I'm just worried that it might have messed up my actions. This is an experimental page. And I'm trying to use it so I can test it before I can release it, obviously. I just want to make sure that it didn't bugger up my stuff. Snippet select. Select. So that looks okay. So let's refresh this. So if you have something like this and it says, okay, so how do I debug this? Like it's not working. It's supposed to run this, and I got to change this text because it's not floating over. So I'll break things down. I see this a lot of times. People will post something on our Slack and they'll say, "Hey, it's just not working," and then it takes the community of zillion questions to get to the heart of it, right? So if you really want to get support the best from everybody, is you have to put some groundwork in, right? I think it's reasonable. Something I really learned from some of the other communities is if you don't have anything that's very well defined that somebody, a knowledge expert, can just look at and then instantly see the whole problem, that all the information that they need is there, they won't even bother asking. They won't say to explain. They just move on because there's just so much stuff. So it's just a courtesy, I think. But anyhow, so what's happening here? So what I would do is I would break this down to just simple things. So we got this on row click, which for some reason, and somebody's probably watching and see this. I'm not seeing it right now. Alert. I'm going to put the alert right in here. There's something flaky going on with my browser here. I'm going to go back to this other page. I don't fully trust this one. Does this work? Yeah, there we go. Okay, so let's put the alert right in here. So that should save you. And that should at least, I wonder how come, did we change the width of the side panel? I don't recall changing that. I'm going to make that a little wider. There's another trick. So that's working. Okay, so that's working there. So I know my on action is firing. So let me undo this, and action, named action, and the name snippet. And I think that's all we should need right there. Make sure that's, oops, copy that. And let's see, snippet select. Is that what snippet select, show alert? Something I'm missing here. We should be showing that alert there. So there's something peculiar. It's not performing the named action. Let's see, maybe params. Okay. This is related to a bug that evidently wasn't squashed in this particular running named actions. So we have to have an options key, I believe. Options. Yeah, let me double check. Okay. There we go. Okay. So let me just actually, I don't know. Does anybody, what do you guys use for, oops, let me just do this. I'm just going to pause my screen there because there might be something of importance on there. And what do you guys use for task managing and stuff like that? We use one called Red Booth. And but it's okay. Lately, we've been using a new one that embeds itself right into the app. So you'll see some people, depending on what browser you're using, you'll see send feedback, and you can actually submit stuff, and it shows up right on our board, which is pretty cool. Okay, so that's working now. So how are we doing? Over time a little bit. Don't feel obligated if you have like real work to do. So I got this working. I need to do a couple things now. I need to run some JavaScript, and I need to set the active index so that we can change the maybe highlight the row or do something there. So because we need to know which one's active. I don't think I really like using a table here, because if we get too big, we start to paginate. And if you have an active one, it's on page 2. That doesn't really make sense. So maybe we'll change that. And I need to make this width of this side panel bigger. So right now it's width 64. Instead, what I'm going to say is I'm going to say width full, which doesn't make any sense. We don't want it really full width, but I want it to push out, and then I want it to go to the maximum width of, we'll go large. See how big that is. So what we're going to do is we're going to say the maximum width is going to be large, and that's better. It's kind of a little bit, maybe a little bit. I'll go medium. And that's how you can get some extra sizes out of that stuff. There we go. Beautiful. Push this down here. We'll put some object on the top of this to push this down to the same height so it doesn't look so weird. So we got this, and we need to select. We basically need to just run some JavaScript. So let's go to function and copy that. We'll go over to our named action, and we'll get rid of this alert and too much. Alert. Remember when we didn't have undo in FileMaker? That was crazy. Okay. I was just talking to somebody, a buddy of mine the other day, and we were talking about interfaces and how things change over years. Because actually, I think, is David Zachary on this call? He was earlier, I think. We were looking at an app, an old website, and the website had navigation down the side, sort of similar to how like this is. If you remember, like early 2000s, late 90s, they had web navigation. That was all the rage. Put it on the left-hand side. And all the apps, anytime you got any app you downloaded on your computer, the menus were always at the top of the app. Like if you have the window, there's always menus across the top, but any website has menus down the side. And now that paradigm is totally flipped 180, that virtually every web app has stuff down the side in some form. And every site no sites have navigation down the side. So the whole design paradigm is switched. And okay, so I need to add that JavaScript right in here. So I got the function here. So now here's where I'm going to call the code. So first thing I need to do is in my action, the row, I think it's called, we're going to say var row snip, we'll call it, equals action dot options dot row, I think. Double check. Not sure about this stuff. This is how you do it. You throw a debugger statement in there. Not a bad thing. Don't forget to take them out. It's really annoying otherwise. I do all the time, forget. And action, so there, let's assume that that's correct. And now I have the snip. Now I have to say model dot, what did I call it? Active, no, snippet active. Yeah, let me just say, hold on. Model dot active snippet. Model dot active snippet equals snip. So that sets the right one. But I'm going to have to come back in here, because when you go and select it, that's deselecting the other one. And I'm going to put a to do in here. To do is save the old one first, if applicable. Something like that, right? If exists. All right. So this isn't a great theme, this dark theme. But I should check out how we did that, because I think that's better than the light theme for this kind of stuff, for syntax highlighting. So variable snippet equals action options row, because that's passed in like a parameter. You can think of that as get script parameter is set variable snip, and then model.active snippet. I don't need to set the variable here. I don't need to say var first, because model already exists. And then active snippet is the key that I want to put this on. So that looks good there. And we should see if that's working right as I click on, let me make my dummy data. I got a little bit stuff here. Let's make another one here, and the second one, and this is, or the first one and the third, there we go. Count in equals, this equals 1, 2, and this is count is 0, just so I can see the difference in the code. And then by default, it's starting with no active snippet. Now that may be a problem. So what we want to do is we probably want to hide the editor. So let's do that too. So let's find our editor right here. And we're going to add a visibility key. Visible. Any key can become a calc, just like a field in FileMaker can become a calculation. And I want to see if model dot act, what was it called? No, active something, snippet active snippet. If model dot active snippet, there we go. That's all we have to say. There's a Boolean equation, right? So it's going to evaluate. So model dot active snippet, that means if there's something in it and it's not null or zero or false, those are all three separate things, then this will show up, right? And then I probably want to throw a placeholder in there. So let's grab an HTML block for the placeholder or the empty state, and I'm going to put that in there as well. Oops, put that right there. Put that in there as well, and we'll copy the same visible statement here, comma paste, but it's going to be the opposite, so I want to say not. And this one here, let's see, class equals, start with some big text, 2XL, text gray. Don't want it to be jarring, too jarring. That's good. Font bold. And what this is going to do is say, select a snippet to begin. Select a code snippet. There we go. I don't think we need bold on there. Actually, now that I see this, select a code snippet. Semi-bold. There we go. It's good enough. And let's go a little bigger. 3. There we go. And we want to text center it. Text center. There we go. I think that's going to be good. And we're going to put some padding all around it. So padding 16. There we go. And the new tools, check this out. This is pretty cool. You can show background gray, and you can turn on so you can see where your divs and stuff are set. Okay, so save. Let's have let's have a look. So in theory, the editor should, nope, miss something here. Visible model dot active snippet. Visible calc. Is that spelled right? Yeah, visible calc. Model dot active snippet. Model dot active snippet. Actually, I'm going to start this off as false. I think that because let me just try that out because maybe it's not evaluating. No, it's something else there. Let's reduce it. Let's work our way backwards again, right? Let's just put false in here so we know where the issue is. Unless somebody can see it, then by all means chime in. Since everybody's like super quiet. Model.active snippet. Visible calc. It's on a field. Yeah, that's fine. And guys, Jason's probably going to be false. I'm going to change this. No, okay, that doesn't matter. Let's see. Oh, yeah, my editor. I'm looking at the tabs. I'm not looking at the code editor. Okay, so that is disappearing. And let me just do this model.active snippet. I don't think I was looking at the right thing. Okay, there's my editors showing up there, but I don't think it should be, right? Snippet is false. Hey, anybody see anything? Jason, you see what that is? I see you staring. Model.active snippet. There is my, let me just check. Hold on. I know what it is. Hold on. It's working. It's just that my default data is turned on and the active snippet has an object. So let's turn our default data to active snippet. And there we go. I think that's it. So it was actually doing what it's supposed to. Yes, let's try this again. All right, select the code snippet to begin. I select the code snippet, and we got to see what's going on there. So maybe we got a little mistake going quick. There is our JavaScript running. Action options. Oh, it's action options params. That's right, not row. Params dot row. Okay, so that's why. So it's not seeing anything, so it's not selecting an active snippet. action options param.row. I think that this is in the docs, but who reads those? So when we select action options params, this is kind of a hold off because now we do pass things a little different. Params.row. There we go. Okay, let's try it one more time for our little editor. Select, boom, variable code 1. All right, see that? So that's changing. Code 0, code 1. So now we got the two things. It's not saving it because if I go and change this and then I jump to a different one, it just overwrites it. But we can change that too. We can make the change, and then I think we'll call it a day. That's going to be the first part of it. And then I'll just show you really quick how we do that. What I basically want to do is I want to, when the code changes, every time it changes, I'm going to push it back in. Then I don't even have to save it. Then it's saved. Because if I rely on them to click on something else, they'd have to click out of it to save. So I want to save it right away. So we have an event called on changed actions for the editor, for any key, and it's called something like on change or changed underscore actions. And anything that does that takes an array. And I basically want to, I'm going to put my alert in here, simple debugging, baby steps, and make sure that works because I got the right key. So basically when the editor changes, it should make an alert. So let's try it. So I tip, boom, boom. So every time I type, you can see, boom, it's making all these alerts. So it's fine. So it's working properly. Okay. So, and you can actually see, it's interesting that it looks like it fires twice when I click a new one. So I click on that didn't change, I guess, right? Because the value didn't change, makes sense. Click once. And I think what happens is the editor changed when it updated the value to the new one. So it fired it once and then the new value came in and it fired it again. But I think that's okay. I don't think it matters. So what I want to do is I want to call an action called, I want to create a named action here. And instead of snippet select, this one's going to be called snippet save. Snippet update, save, save, comma, okay. And the named action, so I have to call that from over here. So we're going to get rid of this, get rid of that, and it's going to be action named action. I have a 1 o'clock training session, so I can't work too much on this, but it's okay. And name, we're almost done this part. You can get it done. Snippet save. I think that's all we need to do. I don't think we need the thing. Let's grab that. Make sure that this works. Snippet save, place the alert in there and refresh. There we go. So the snippet is updating. Didn't update with these ones because these ones don't have anything in them. So that's kind of a, oh no, hold on, there. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so that's working. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah, okay. So that's working. Now what we need to do, this is the thing when you're working with arrays, is, we need an add button in there too. We need a button like new snippet over here, a big button, or not big button because we got this big thing on top. When you're working with arrays, I'm going to turn this into this is snippet save. I'm just going to take this out, action, it's a function. You have to update the source data because we've pulled the data out to reflect it, but it doesn't automatically get pushed back in. Not with the editor, it doesn't. I don't think, yeah, I know, because we already tried it now. And action, function. Okay, so now this is going to get called. I can get rid of this debugger here too. This is going to get called when code changes, editor code changes. So what we want to do is basically we want to find out find out what is the active snip, then update that one. Right. Now we don't know, it's okay, I'm not going to run it yet. We don't know what the active one is because in our code here, we didn't specify. We did make an index, and you can see there's it right here, active index, but we didn't actually, we didn't set it. But I think what we can do is we can just take the current snippet.id and search for that. So let's do that. We use one of those lodash functions that we were talking about earlier on. So that's a little bit more exciting. And we won't even use this key here. We won't even use this one. I don't think we need it. Okay, so we're going to say snippet equals snip var snip equals. Actually, we don't even need to do that because it's model.snip. So the model dot what's it called? Model dot active snippet is the actual object that it's sitting in. That's the editor is pointing to. So the editor is seeing model.active snippet. If I want to be more explicit, snip equals there. Okay. That's the whole snip, but I don't really want that. I want the ID snippet. So ID snippet would be active snippet dot ID, right? Because the active snippet will be one of these dot ID. That gives me the ID. We're going to have to make sure that when we create a new one, we have to create an empty ID then. Okay, that's okay though. Where am I? Here, no, here. And that's right, left tabs. Okay, so all right, so we got the ID, and now we want to do a find. So I'm going to resort to my Lodash docs, and it's like find, filter, not find. Find, it's find index. That's going to find the position. It's going to return not the object, but the position. And then I just specify some find criteria. So here's the code right here to find it. I'll explain it in a sec what it does. So I want to say var index equals, that's the position. It's going to be find index not out of users. I want to find it out of model.snippets. And I don't need two criteria in here. So let's get rid of that. And it's going to be ID, the key that I'm looking for. And the ID will be ID snip. Hope that makes sense. So what this is doing is it's saying perform find, so FileMaker, model.snippets out of that, in that array, I'm pretty sure that's what we called it. Look for, and you can set multiple criteria here. Look for ID key to be equal to this ID snip, which is the active one. So we found it. Once we know the index, then we can just say model dot snippets at square braces. You can think of it as at index. In other words, that particular one equals snip. So find the position in the array. Sorry, find the ID, the unique ID. Find the position in that array of snippets. And then that gives me the index. It's going to be starting at 0, right? And it will find it because it came from there. So we're going to not bother trapping for weirdnesses and things like that. And then once you have the index, you can say model.snippets at the index. So that particular one, just like if this was FileMaker, you kind of do one of these things, right? And $. You know, if this was FileMaker, you'd kind of code it up like that, you know, all those kind of things. So index, and equals the snippet. Do I have snip? I don't have the snippet, so it's model active snippet. So I can just, I don't have a key called snip, so it's model active snip. There we go. I think that's right. And let's just do this just in case. Okay, save, refresh. So I click on this one, var count 0, var count 1. So that's changing. That's good. Now let's go var count 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0. So now we got our array updating. So now we can jump back and forth between all these different code bases. We're not pushing it into local storage or anything like that. We'll do that separate if you want to see how I do that. But that's kind of the gist of, yeah, I got a call here. That's kind of the gist of it. And that's a very basics. We spent most of the time, we spent 45 minutes just talking, or 30 minutes talking about the background. But for the most part, we got the editor part working. Now, if you wanted to put a save button, call FileMaker, you can push that whole array back up to FileMaker, and now you have an active code editor, right? And it's already, we haven't added the responsive part in there. We'll probably drop this underneath and all of that kind of stuff. If this is something that you want to see again, let me know. Unfortunately, I have to jump off, so I don't really have too much time for questions, but I can take a couple while I get set up for my call. I always break my demo, so I got to make sure it's back up and running. All right. So what we'll do is we're going to call it at that today, guys. Have yourself a great weekend, and we'll see you soon. Cheers.